couple renovating their house uncovers a secret room hidden in the basement. Homeowners might find all sorts of odds and ends when they move into a new place, including money, historical relics, and even passive-aggressive notes from previous residents. But Archie and Philippa Graham-Palmer hit the jackpot. After inheriting an ancestral manor, the couple stopped cold while remolding their basement. Archie and Philippa knew they'd uncover some interesting sights, but they never expected to learn a secret that was more than 100 years old. But before we start, please make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell and smash that like button. We really appreciate your continuous support. When Archie and Philippa stepped inside together for the first time, they knew that they had their hands full. Archie had grown up in the house with his parents, but they hadn't done much work on the space. The pair was walking into a nightmare. The Graham-Palmer's manor was built in the early 1800s at Seven-Lee Park. It was actually the second building to stand on the grounds, as the first burnt down in a 1794 fire. Once the couple dug into the Victorian-era practices, this wasn't surprising. For instance, their bathrooms would explode a lot. In their early plumbing and sewer systems, flammable gases like hydrogen sulfide and methane would leak into the home. When an unsuspecting person lit a candle, they would cause a massive explosion. The first plastic celluloid was invented during the Victorian era. Consumers loved the material so much that they added it to clothing. Unfortunately, this was also extremely flammable. Nobody could say whether this caused the devastating fire at Seven-Lee Park, but it led to a tumultuous path. After the manor was rebuilt, it was inhabited by the Griffiths family. Eventually, it was left to the Kenyon family of Greddington. The Greddingtons held it until 1830, when the home was auctioned at the Winstay Arms Hotel. Reverend Nathaniel Roberts and his wife Frances were the next people to live in the home, and surprise, surprise, there was another massive fire. The home went through another massive renovation then. Next, Sir William Henry Roger Palmer and his wife Eleanor, Frances's sister, moved to Seven-Lee Park. Finally, it was passed on to their son, Sir Roger William Henry, in 1854. Following a 1930s renovation, the home remained dormant until Archie and Philippa entered. It wasn't a pretty sight. The basement was filled with an enormous pile of items Archie's family had amassed over the years. Sifting through the piles, the couple discovered something exciting. It seemed like a secret doorway. If you're familiar with the true crime genre, you'll know that hidden rooms don't always have the brightest history behind them. Apparently, this one had been covered after World War II. What kind of secret was the family trying to hide? For once, a secret room had an exciting and not depressing backstory. Behind the Victorian walls hid a kitchen and servants' hall that hadn't been touched since 1830. The couple was flabbergasted by the sight. Stepping into the room was like taking a time machine to another moment in history. This kitchen and servants' hall would have been managed by an entire battalion of staff. Butlers, footmen, scullery maids, housemaids, ladies' maids, and valets. At least 20 servants would have been employed at the Seven-Lee Park home. They worked in the home until the early 1900s when practices changed for servants. Before then, they had zero time off from their duties. Also, servants slept in small, cramped rooms that were often devoid of windows. They were exploited by their masters to the point where they had little time to take care of themselves. Regardless, the kitchen the Graham-Palmers found was magnificent. It had a double range, a spit for roasting meats, ovens covered with soot, all signs of a well-used kitchen. There were also plenty of tea kettles, of course. This was the UK after all. There was also a cookbook from 1911 inside the room. Many of the recipes were impossible to create without large staff, and the book detailed some amazing recipes: mince pies, pastries, jams, whole roast pig, fit for a feast. Archie grew up never learning about this area of the house. His family cooked meals in a smaller and more modern space in another level of the estate. The basement kitchen was last used before the start of World War II. The owners hid in the basement during German air raids. Once the threat was gone, the family boarded up the kitchen and eventually, as piles of items were stacked in front of the opening, forgot about it. Since their discovery, Archie and Philippa are undergoing a preservation effort to bring the kitchen back to its Victorian-era glory, minus the servants this time. They're currently redecorating the walls with a Victorian color scheme. The couple is also refurbishing the tarnished silverware and other cookware they found around the room. They want to honor all parts of the home and the family's past, especially when it was underneath their feet. Archie and Philippa were thrilled to connect with a lost chapter of their family's past. After all, there was no guarantee that old kitchen would ever be discovered. But for other hidden rooms, their designers did intend to return to them, even if it took decades to unlock the secret.